If you are the mighty Security Council, unable to control a violator of international law, a criminal killing tens of thousands of Palestinians, then you have to review your authority and your power. Mr. President, allow me at the outset to thank you, Russia, Algeria, and China for convening this meeting. Allow me also to thank the briefers, and through them, the humanitarian community. Humanitarians in Palestine are trying to deliver on their noble mission in impossible circumstances and at the peril of their life. Our support should match their courage. UNRWA remains under attack. The baseless and shameless terrorism charge against a UN humanitarian agency are no longer a talking point, but a license to kill. The killing, maiming, and arrest of its staff members and the setting ablaze of its headquarters was a direct result of such incitement. The real target of Israel from this attack are the millions of Palestinians who rely on UNRWA to stay alive and to secure their most basic needs. Palestine, listen to the words leading humanitarian NGOs have said a few days ago, and I quote, "Our presence in Gaza is solely due to the unwavering commitment of our colleagues on the ground, despite great risks to their own lives. Our continued presence should not be mistaken for a sign of something worthy of being called access. It is despite its very absence. The risks our colleagues are exposed to each moment are unacceptable. Today, the issue is not just a shrinking humanitarian space. There is hardly any space left to operate at all." End of quotation. These are the ones that should be supported and cheered, not those attacking them, not those killing innocent civilians and anyone trying to help them, rescue them, heal them, feed them, or simply report on their unjust and untimely death. We have collectively failed. This Council has failed. We can continue counting aid trucks and speaking of routes and imagining alternatives, but the only true measure of our success is our ability to alleviate human suffering. And the suffering of Palestinians is Israelis' goal and desire. Whatever solutions you come up with, it will continue ensuring they fail until it is forced to change course. And the first indispensable step is an immediate ceasefire. All of you are asking for a ceasefire, immediate one. Then I wonder, who is stopping you from implementing the ceasefire? If you tell me that the mighty Security Council, the 15 of you, including the permanent 5, who are saying that immediate ceasefire, are you going to prevail or allow the criminals to continue to prevail? Make up your mind. If you are the mighty Security Council, unable to control a violator of international law, a criminal killing tens of thousands of Palestinians, then you have to review your authority and your power. We have collectively, I said, failed. There is no speech that can convey the shouts of a child being amputated or dealing with severe burns, the silent agony of a father watching his child turning into bones before his eyes until all life leaves his body, the tears in a doctor's eyes as he counts the days and hours in lives he could not save, the anguish of a mother that has become the first and last line of defense after every shelter was destroyed. As we speak, refugees are running in the streets from one death to another as every school sheltering them has been bombed, as even tents were bombarded, with no regard for human life, for any rule of international law, for any sense of humanity. In a parallel world, Netanyahu stood before the US Congress and claimed Israel was not killing or starving Palestinians. Against all evidence, all logic, and any hint of human decency, his speech was the speech of a warmonger dedicated to the humanization of Palestinians and the denial of their rights. A speech of war, a speech of a person who is against peace. He said this was a clash between civilization and barbarism, as he was conducting barbaric attacks against a civilian population, using a lexicon you know well from the experiences of your own countries. It is the language used across history by colonial powers to justify their atrocities. This Israeli government demands you adhere to its supremacist views and be complicit with its crimes. Anyone who refuses this dictate is duped a terrorism supporter and an anti-Semite. But we will remain steadfast in our defense of humanity and international law, of freedom for the Palestinian people and peace for all, and know many will continue standing by our side in these halls and across the globe, and we are grateful for this support. Mr. President, Vice President Harris is now being criticized by unanimous Israeli sources for speaking the compassion about Palestinian victims. She stated, and I quote, "What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent." End of quotation. And silence here is exactly the goal of those outraged by the fact she evoked the right of the Palestinian people to freedom, dignity, and self-determination. We reiterate here our support for Resolution 2735 and the need to ensure its immediate and full implementation. We need to put an end to this horrific assault and make sure such tragedy never occurs again by sparing no effort to achieve freedom and peace, as both of them go hand in hand. We also express our appreciation to the efforts of China for helping us to put our house in order. In this connection, we also thank Egypt, Algeria, Russia, and many others in this regard. Mr. President, The highest court in the world has concluded that Israel's occupation is illegal and must be brought to an end as rapidly as possible. The ICJ has provided us with its authoritative interpretation of binding rules of international law and spelled out Israel's obligations as well as the obligations of all states and the United Nations. The judges have delivered on their sacred mandate. Now it is time for all states and the UN to perform theirs. We will not ignore a single element that the ICJ articulated in its historic advisory opinion. We will seek the implementation of every detail about this illegal, unlawful, criminal acts against our people by the continuation of this occupation that has to end and end as soon as possible. In the coming weeks, we will act within the General Assembly and the Security Council to ensure this opinion is fully upheld towards a more just, free, and secure Middle East. Life, liberty, human dignity must prevail, and for the international law must be upheld as well. Thank you very much, Mr. President.